morning. Hi. How is everyone? Good? Good? All right, it's going to be a warm day today. I'm really excited. This is our 5th anniversary Tech Inclusion Conference here in San Francisco. Wayne and I are going to come back up and talk a little bit more about that and some a special announcement. But before we do that, we're going to do something unique, something that we haven't done before and we should have, and something that all events here in San Francisco should do, and all events around the world really should do, especially in places where we have taken over land that was not ours. So I am really excited to bring onto the stage a woman who is going to talk a little bit more about that. I just want to acknowledge that this land that we are on right now is Ramaytush land from the Yelamu tribe. And I want to bring on Kanyon CoyoteWoman, who is going to talk a little bit more about that and acknowledge the elders past and present, and a little bit more about what we can do as a tech industry to begin to repair the damage that we've done. So please welcome her to the stage.
If you can hear me, say, oh. All right, that's a little cultural inclusion right there, because clapping is great, but oh is standing in solidarity and sending those prayers out in a good way. Mishmin Tuhis, Kanrakat Kanyon CoyoteWoman Sayers-Roods. My name is Kanyon CoyoteWoman Sayers-Roods. I come from Indian Canyon Nation, the only federally recognized Indian country between Sonoma and Santa Barbara, along central coastal California. That being said, I identify as a California native. I am Mutsun Ohlone, but right here, right now, we are in the Ramaytush Ohlone territory. Can I hear you say Ramaytush? Can I hear you say Yelamu? And here's one of my words in the Mutsun language, Ma Piditakawas. Ma Piditakawas. You're acknowledging the indigenous languages of the land. You're acknowledging the first village site. Before San Francisco was San Francisco, before it was known as California, it was known as Yelamu. The first language is Ramaytush. Did you know that there are over 8 languages in the Bay Area alone? In excess of 250 dialects in California? These are different communities, different practices. And we respect something called Indigenous protocol. Today, there's something that we follow, and it's a common etiquette. When we want to go to our neighbors and borrow a cup of sugar, we do something before we enter and just take their sugar. We kind of go knock on the door, right? It's an etiquette. It's a respect. It's consent culture. Indigenous peoples also have that. Before we enter a space that is not our homeland, we seek permission to be there. However, in today's post-colonial settler society, people feel entitled to the land they are on without regarding the history of the spaces and places and the people who have always been here. The indigenous people who have been stewarding these lands for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. An integral relationship with the environment, an accountable reciprocal relationship. I come from a matrilineal society. My mother and my grandmother believe that when song, ceremony, and dancing stops, so does the earth. I too believe that. I want to offer a grandmother's song to honor our grandmothers, their grandmothers, and an all Mother Earth, for without them and without her, we would not be here. We share this time and space together for a reason. So it's with that humility, that gratitude, that present-mindedness that I offer this song in this space here. And what are we going to do at the end of the song? Oh, come on. What are we going to do at the end of the song? All right. Just to send that out in a good way, to ground ourselves, to recognize that we are Ama Piditakawas, people of this land. All of us right here, right now. We're right here. We are people of this land, and we take steps to acknowledge the indigenous peoples of whose land we are on. So this is Kanyon's grandmother song. Moi moi o kawan o moi moi o ka moi moi no moi moi o ko moi moi o ne ai o ko na le son and oh, oh, oh. And so, as an Indigenous person, I recognize that I am very privileged. As a California native, I could say that I've been born and raised within traditional community lands, with Indigenous community, as well as intertribal teachings, on the land that my grandmothers have always been. Recognizing that privilege, being able to participate in ceremony all the time, and being in the Bay Area, definitely awesome. However, settler colonialism is pretty intense. It's divorced of accountability, doesn't recognize that the history of the land is important, because many times, well, the narrative, I didn't like social studies, I didn't like history, because it was always of other people, not even accounting where we are, and it's a history of a land that always started in the 1600s. What about the history there, before that? Oh, wait. Archaeologists call us prehistoric. But when I ask you, can someone just spit out the word? When I first say prehistoric, what's the word you think of? Right? So where is that history? Sorry, I hang out with archaeologists all the time. They're like, oh yeah, prehistoric, pre-written history of settler colonizers. Acknowledge that, please. Because in history, we're talking about Native American, hunter-gatherer. Hold up, wait a minute. What about Indigenous science? What about Indigenous technology? What about those Indigenous wisdoms, of which have an integral, accountable, reciprocal relationship to not only our community, to our environment, but our responsibility to the next generations, to recognize our ecological impact, to not be focused on instant gratification, consumeristic nation, disposable society. Western settler colonialism, Americentrism. My elders always say this, and I will always repeat it. America is spiritually, morally, and ethically bankrupt. Dr. Daryl Babe Wilson has always stated that. And my mother says, America is founded on the lives and deaths of Indigenous peoples. So when we think about that, what are we doing about that? I really want to indigenize the internet, which means bring integral, accountable actions. Google, we can go like, Google, how do I change a tire? Okay, cool. But wait, do I go up to some culture bearer and culture keeper and say, tell me your sacred ceremony for your coming of age for your young women? Come on, tell me. What about the relationship building? What about the reciprocal interaction, accountable thought process that goes into those relationship opportunities, those building opportunities? Hearing no and taking that no. Many times people tokenize Native peoples and they try and shop for us like, oh, I really want to do this really, really cool thing. I'm going to go ask a Native. And the Native person says, I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, well, I'm just going to ask another one. I'm going to shop for another one until I get what I want. Or when Native peoples come together and we make decisions about what we're going to do as a community. There are businesses that say, oh, well, we shot a message out to the world, we shot a letter out, and we want the Native peoples to be present, but if you guys can't make it to this particular meeting, it's going to be business as usual, and hey, you didn't make it, so you missed the opportunity. That's not how Indigenous peoples operate. And when we think about it, Indigenous cultures from around the world have been sustaining the land for thousands of years. And so when we recognize that all of us have Indigenous ancestors to the land that they come from, we can recognize that we can reconnect to that thread of truth. We can connect to those Indigenous teachings. And even if we have multiple, awesome, you have so many lineages, and of which one common practice is recognize where you are. Connect with the community of the land that you're on. Recognize the histories of the spaces and places that we occupy in today's post-colonial settler society. Be accountable to your community and your nations and who you represent, and care about your how your actions and words impact not only your family, your community, your environment, but the next 7 generations. It's so very important. So there are so many ways Indigenous practices, from as simple as ethical and sustainable harvesting methods. My mother taught me, take a pinch of tobacco and thank the plant. Honor the life that's lived and the gift that's given. Because it's not going to be that vegan agenda where it's, oh, the animal's life is sacred. It's like you're taking a life or you're impacting a life. You're taking a leaf of that kale. You're taking the entire broccoli. You're taking a life to sustain your own. Humble yourself. be accountable, and take the steps to recognize how our actions and words impact? How do we connect our communities? How do we recognize the perspectives that haven't always had a chance to be acknowledged? So my name is Kanyon CoyoteWoman. I am the CEO of Kanyon Consulting, where we are bridging the gap between indigenous and contemporary value systems. I have free educational resources on my website. I love conversations. I love opportunities to connect, so I really hope you get an opportunity to check out my mini-zine on my website. It's canyonconsulting.com/mini-zine. Free, distributable, offset the energies that Native peoples always have to do to educate. Let's have the community educate community. Oh! Thank you.